way that consumers are consuming content is changing. We have now many more choices than we've ever had before on many different devices and many different formats and many different media. And we can own content, we can rent content, we can get it for free, legally and illegally. Therefore, the advertising world is in upheaval too, and has completely been disrupted. The way that we consume content is no longer even linear. And what content actually is has changed greatly. Content isn't just prose. It's atomic elements of content, right? So it's still images, it's 8-second videos, it's status updates, it's text messages, it's what your friend had for dinner. It's basically everything that's competing for your attention at any given moment. And the fact that we can always look around to a different screen and be consuming content, that ups the ante for advertisers, because now it's not the inventory that's scarce like it used to be, it's people's attention. For the last 20 years, we've been trying to figure out as advertisers how to become a part of a consumer's daily content consumption. And now that social media is there, it presents us a great opportunity, right? Because it's not just about optimizing content for the way that they'll consume it, but we have the opportunity to turn the consumer into not just a consumption channel, but a distribution channel too. So now, as we've got a responsibility as advertisers to create content that people want to share. The natural reaction for brands is to create this content that has a longer shelf life, that people can find through a search engine or any of those kinds of things. And I think those are all valid, but they're not necessarily what people tend to share. What we found is that the content that people tend to share is really visual in nature. It's really short form, incredibly short form. We've landed on this notion of micro content being something that's incredibly important for a brand to program, because as they've spent all of this money building up these followings, likes, fans in these social channels, they have a responsibility to actually give them something that they might want to read or see or be interested in. On Gay Pride Day this year, Oreo published a photo on Facebook that showed a classic Oreo cookie, but instead of the normal white filling, it was basically all the colors of the rainbow. And it was basically coming out, in no pun intended, in support of that, and which obviously had a polarizing effect on a lot of people. I mean, some people swore off Oreos, some people embraced it as a great show of support for the community, but all of that happened as a result of one image. And they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and that picture was worth at least 1,000 comments and shares and ultimately millions of views. The notion of the creative newsroom is something that's been in development here for, I would say, probably years. But it's been only recently where we've been able to formulate success with it. The notion is built upon the fact that brands' reaction time needs to be decreased. In the past, it's been literally, weeks of pitching and then, months of revisions, and then finally something makes it, something sees daylight. But by the time a couple of weeks go by, the creative wears out and then we have to introduce something new. The way the newsroom here functions, we consume as quickly as possible everything that's going on in the world. The content then gets created in a way that's optimized for sharing. The client has an opportunity to approve that content quickly. Before that content expires, it gets published on the brand's social media channels. The rest of the work is done by the consumer. The advice that I would give somebody trying to rethink a brand in a social age is to actually see content consumption through the eyes of the consumer rather than the RFP that they issued to some publisher, or what they're hearing from some salesperson, or what they're reading in Ad Age or seeing in the Nielsen ratings. We're still telling stories every day. They're just different kinds of stories, and stories that don't just have a beginning and an end. Some of them don't have ends. They're constantly evolving stories, and they're collaborative stories that are told with the consumer as opposed to just to them.